Yeah, so welcome everybody. We are, as I said, live on YouTube. This is the IOTA and Bankless Consulting Governance Town Hall. We are presenting a series of 5 community sessions here in the IOTA Discord. Bankless Consulting are in a pretty nice relationship with us. We are since many months in contact with them. They are supporting some of our DAOs that have been started in the IOTA community. And we have set up these community sessions basically to introduce the IOTA community to some pretty successful and pretty well-designed treasury community grant systems that are out there already in the crypto space. Because we are in the process of setting up our own community treasury, and so we believe that it's super important for the community to get some insights, actually what others are doing, what are the obstacles on the way, where are the traps and the mistakes that others have done. So this might help our community to make better decisions in the end on what our treasury should be set up and how it should look like. And I really welcome Chuck25 and Joe King here. Both are part of Bankless DAO and Bankless Consulting, and they will present stuff. And I'm basically giving over now to you guys, and everybody here enjoy. Like I said, we have the chat, so if you come to up to some questions, collect them in the chat, and so later on we can really go through some of the questions of the community. It's all yours, Chuck.
Perfect. Thanks, Holger. I'll just, because it's the first one, or maybe at the start of each one, I'll just say a little bit about Bankless Consulting. We are a consulting practice that connects businesses that want to leverage Web3 technology to get an edge with all of the talent within Bankless DAO. And so governance is one of our specialty areas, as well as tokenomics and other, Web3 business areas. Joe King is extremely talented and well-versed in tokenomics and governance. We're really lucky to have him and people like him working with us at Bankless Consulting. So I know you're all going to learn a lot from Joe today, as well as from other really stellar team members who we have lined up to present the next workshops as well. So with that, I'll kick it over to Joe and we'll get started.
Thanks, Chuck. I got to live up to that intro. Appreciate you. Well, thanks for having me here, everybody. Appreciate the IOTA community for letting us do this for you guys, as well as go through it. And I got to give a big shout out to the Aave Grants DAO team. They were very generous with their time, answering my questions. I even had a one-on-one with Srihas, who's the Grants DAO head, and it was pretty awesome to get to talk to those guys and see what they're doing, because they're a really, really advanced grants program. They've had a lot of success, and hopefully we all learn a lot today. So without further ado, let's jump in. The mission statement for Aave Grants DAO is super clean. Provide grants of projects, ideas, and events that benefit Aave and its ecosystem. This is not a public goods fund. This is not out there to build anything else other than just for Aave and to benefit the ecosystem of Aave itself. The vision, community-led grants program to fund ideas submitted by Aave's protocols community, focus on empowering a wider network of community developers. And the grants program is created after a community discussion, which I can share the link after this to the Aave governance forums, so you can see all the initial proposals they went through to build this program out. Focus on these key sectors: protocol development directly for Aave itself, third-party applications and integrations that can be built on top. That could be dashboards, that could be a health meter for collateral, developer tooling to help people build inside of Aave itself, auditing of codes, committees and subcommittees. Since Aave itself doesn't have a working team inside of it, or like a paid salaried staff, these subcommittees are built out from the grants program, such as treasury management, marketing, risk parameters, and safety. They also do community for marketing educational content, and they host events and hackathons. They sponsor things at ETHCC, ETH Denver, and different consensus places across different crypto and Web3 conferences. So how is this Grants DAO funded? It's important to see there's 2 big distinctions here, right? So we have the Aave DAO itself, run by those in Aave, and then there's the Aave Grants DAO, which sits underneath of it. The Aave Grants DAO was seeded with $6 million in funding. $3 million came in the form of AUSD. If you're involved with Aave at all, AUSD is an interest-bearing position on staked USDC coins. And then over $3 million in Aave tokens itself from their actual protocol token. Size of the program, Aave Grants is led by Shreyas, an excellent guy, really well known. If you go on YouTube, you can see all of his videos from the last couple of years. Very smart guy. The staff is with 9 reviewers who actually review the grants, 2 general staff to handle things like communication, going back and forth with the team, proposals, and then 1 designer to make all these pretty things we see on their website. And the reviewers are made up of varying skill sets. It's important, obviously, half of the team is made up of devs, so they can go through and audit code, ensure the things being built are proper. But there's also people with finance backgrounds, marketing, community and governance, and tokenomics. They're all elected by the DAO to make sure that review team has the skill sets they need to properly vet all the proposals that are coming through. Stakeholders in there, we just went over the reviewers, what they can do, and their main goal is basically just to, can the team who is putting a grant proposal through, can they execute? Do they have the skill? Does this thing directly benefit Aave? And is it important for us to actually to go forward and fund this process? Then you have the Aave Grants DAO. They steward that $6 million they were done. They do some snapshot voting, which we'll go over in the next slide, as well as then the Aave DAO itself, which is the overarching company or protocol that's overseeing the Grants DAO itself. So here's the nitty gritty. The guiding principles and approval process to go through these grants. If you're coming through with less than $20,000 in request funding, they call it a rapid grant. They're going to have 1 reviewer look through that process, and you'll get approved within 24 hours. So that's how fast they want to move with these small grants. When I first heard that, I assumed it was going to be disastrous, and they've had very few people not deliver. It's been a really successful program. They're actually talking about trying to speed this up even faster so people aren't sitting in queue. If you have a cool idea for something simple, they want to get you money fast, let you get building. And then the funds are done 50% at the beginning, 50% at the end. The next level up is if you hit the $20,000 to $100,000 mark, they're going to have 2 reviewers look at your proposal, and then you're going to have an interview with the team. So they're going to go through and interview everybody. They're going to make sure that you guys have the proper background to go through and execute on this process. They're going to look for anything you've done in the past. They're going to do a full due diligence process to see if you can execute the grant they're going to provide. And then the exact same thing, 50% at the beginning, 50% at the end. Some of these proposals in this $100,000 range, 20 to 100, if they're really technical, they might do a tranche funding, which is kind of a milestone or KPI-driven funding model. So if you execute on 1, you get in there 10 grand. You execute on 2, maybe it's 5, but it's all predetermined before the approval and agreement is set up. Now, it gets a little more complicated when you get heavier into the money world. So we end up in $100,000 to $500,000 range. You'll have full community engagement from the Grants DAO, not the full Aave DAO, just the Grants DAO. And that'll be all 9 reviewers, the whole staff, plus all the contributors in the Grants DAO, which is over 100 people. We'll go through and look at it, go through the process, same thing, full due diligence, interview the team. They're going to look at past projects you've done. They're going to audit code if it's a code-based process. If it's marketing, they'll look at what you've done in the past to make sure your team can execute. Do you have the skills and the reputation in Web3 to get this level of funding? And then this is all done through milestones. So every process is different. It's all individualized, but yeah, it's usually based on different tranches or KPIs. And then if you're applying for something in the 500,000 or higher range, it'll be a full Aave DAO involvement. So the entire Aave DAO, 20,000 plus people in that DAO, it'll be a full governance proposal, then there'll be a vote, and then after that, it'll be a full snapshot going through to get the entire funding done. And the same thing, it's all milestone KPI driven. On the left side, I think we just talked about how the processes are funded and how everything goes through. But the right side is more important right now, which is the Aave DAO success measure. So how is the Aave DAO looking at the Grants DAO, and what is their goals, and what do they think that success looks like? So they want to see grant applications increasing. They want to see that marketing team getting the word out about the grants program, so more people are coming in and applying. They want the best builders in the system coming to Aave to build on that platform because they have the money, they approve fast, and it's a quick process. Growth in projects and ideas funded. Are those grant proposals coming through? Are they of high quality? Are we funding more projects now because they're good, because you've increased that community draw? Is the community being engaged in voting and talking about the proposals? Do we see a growth in Aave TBL, borrowing activity, unique wallet addresses? say somebody builds a dashboard, or one of the ones I'll go over next is a health metric. How healthy is your collateral in the protocol? If things like that start being launched, do you see more people coming into Aave? Is it making it a better experience for the user? Improved sentiment, is the community happier with the program? Are we seeing more people voting on proposals? Are we seeing more people involved in the community? Are these grants getting people involved? And then there's also the brand awareness for Aave and the greater Web3 ecosystem being brought out higher. As their market position getting better? But how do they monitor these funds? They're giving out $100,000, $500,000 in certain places. How are you going to make sure that you're getting what you're paying for? Well, they go through their funds using audits of code, and they're going to monitor the success. So usually the Aave Grants DAO team has access to that team's communication lines. They do check-ins, they see how things are going, they check on those predetermined KPIs we talked about. Are milestones being reached on time? If not, why aren't they being met, and what's happening? So some key success stories that this grants program has done is Kono Finance. If you're a DeFi user like I am, you've probably seen Gelato out there. But Kono Finance is a really cool system that goes through and has liquidation protection. So you can set your own parameters inside of Kono and say your collateral is getting close to liquidation level. You can have preset sell levels, so it starts to sell your collateral for you, so you never hit a liquidation penalty, which is a pretty cool system to build on top. Gives people a lot more peace of mind when borrowing funds. They have the Aave mobile app. Just shy of $100,000, but you can go on your phone and download an Aave mobile app now and do DeFi from your phone, which is pretty cool. Get to onboard more Web3 users, get some more DeFi people in there, and can build brand awareness and kind of keep showing that Aave is industry leader. And then the other thing we talked about was what they can do with grants, building their own teams. So they built a whole treasury management committee that comes in and handles all of the funds with Aave, and the Grants DAO is the one paying for these guys to operate and go through. They do full financial statements, growth metrics, everything you'd expect from high-end corporate finance is done by this treasury committee. Future plans of Aave, they'd actually like to speed up. They want to go faster, which I thought was crazy. 24-hour approval times in less than a week for grants under $100,000, and they want to go fast, which I thought was pretty interesting. They've had such success, they want to keep moving. They're willing to move fast and break things. I thought something very interesting he told me during our interview is that if they fund something that comes out that's not great, but it still has some useful metrics to it, or say it's a new dashboard and the back end is not good, but say the UI UX is fabulous, they'll be happy to fund another project to build the back end on top of that. Since the grants program gives you rights to own it, like they're owning what they're paying for, they can go through and have somebody else build on top of work that's already been done. I thought it was kind of cool. You fund two projects, A is okay, B is okay, but together they're great. So it gives them the advantage of putting things together, or even having their own internal devs work on processes to help with the process. And scaling up, Aave's discussed internally to create a VC fund. So essentially the grants they give out would serve as a seed funding round. And then these guys, this second fund they're talking about constructing, would be like a Series A. So say the grant goes through and seeded the whole process and the project's done. They think, hey, this dashboard is great. We should have this live on Balancer. We should get this out there into Compound. They can go ahead and seed this, or give a Series A funding to it, actually own part of it, or own the rights to it, and have this team go out there and use their internal expertise to help grow these projects. So that Aave's Grants DAO has a source of revenue to keep funding itself. As it stands right now, that $6 million they were seeded with, that's it. They'd have to go back to the community and do a full vote to top those funds up. And they've used about 3.6 million so far on over 109 grants. That's what I got so far. I'm happy to answer questions and go any deeper in any subjects you'd like to. So I'll open the floor up.
Amazing. Thanks a lot. I think this was a pretty cool introduction and overview. So let's check. Do we have actually some questions from the community in our voice chat? Not yet. Do we have any questions from the audience to Joe and Chuck? Please step forward.
Yeah, I have a question, Joe. First, thanks for the presentation. That was really interesting and informative. And we were actually trying to form like a committee that would give out grants for projects that were looking for 20,000 and under. And one of the things that we were kind of stuck on or trying to figure out was how to trust projects. You know, like they were legitimate projects and people who would actually, you know, use the funds to produce something, to build something. And we were looking into KYC and, you know, stuff like that. And I was wondering what Aave did in terms of trying to, you know, make sure people were who they were, saying who they were and stuff like that.
So, from my understanding, I don't want to. I'm not 100% on this one. But from what Treehouse was telling me during my interview with him, is that under 20,000, they don't do any KYC. It's just strictly like asking around the community, hey, like, do you know these people? What have you shipped? Okay, you've shipped a grant to somebody else. You've built this protocol. You've built this dashboard. You have enough Web3 reputation. We trust you. Anything over 20,000, they do full KYC. Yes.
Yep. So that's basically, of course, there's a bit of trust, but you say really they are extremely happy with with this quick funding thing. So basically, they have nearly no bail-offs or stuff like that.
They've had a few, but not enough that's deterred them from going any faster.
So with the 20,000 and that they don't do any KYC, how do they do distribution in the United States? Because if you're over 10,000, at least from a bank's perspective and from the lawyers that we've talked and that I've talked to, you need to KYC over 10K. Are they just ignoring and you know, going forward, or is there like they have kind of, let's say, identified something better, like a better legal process or something like that? I don't know.
I'm not a lawyer. I don't play one on the internet. I can say that they don't have currently. Grants DAO does not have a LLC or any kind of an actual legal structure. They are strictly a DAO. They live in the Web3 ecosystem. So I don't know the answer to your question. I couldn't tell you, but as far as I know, no, there's not doing KYC or AML for those first grants.
For the small ones, yeah, they just, I mean, go for it, and yeah, that's pretty interesting. Also, in regard to, so do you have more in? So they have not really set up a legal structure for the grants committee, or basically, how are the grant committee people? I mean, you said there are like 9 people. Are they employed by? Yeah. So how did they form this whole thing?
So the original Aave DAO is the one that seeded and built the Grants DAO, and then the actual Aave DAO itself elected everybody, and then they built their own charter and have their own salaries. Salaries are all public as well. I can throw that into the general chat.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Can you put up the slides again in the beginning where you show these the allocations 15, 50 to 100 and stuff like this?
Sure.
Yeah.
Your Dino bot's yelling at me. I'm posting links too fast.
You're posting links in the general channel or here in the chat?
I was trying to in the general.
Ah, yeah.
Let's share the screen again.
While you're doing that, and great presentation, I heard you say that for the 20,000 below, you don't KYC, but it sounded like you said they generally only take community known individuals. Is that right?
Yes, they want to see what you've shipped before in the past, right? So if you're, if I'm Joe King and I have nothing publicly posted and I'm applying for a grant, they're probably not going to approve me. If I can show them code that I've shipped before, a portfolio of projects, give them resources of other DAOs I've contributed to, grants that I've completed, then it gives them kind of that Web3 reputational trust.
Nice. And so do you guys have like a template form submittal that each person submits, or basically the proposer is just free to pitch their product and how they feel deemed necessary?
Yeah, it's pretty much a Google sheet. Like a Google Forms kind of questionnaire, and it goes through and has everything explained, and then you upload your proposal, upload anything you can show as resources and references for your work before.
Nice. Interesting.
Is this basically the form that they're using, the Google? Is this the same for all grant sizes, or do they distinguish? Do they require a much more formalized application for the bigger grants?
So yeah, the actual proposal, I guess the original applications are the same, but when you go into those larger grant buckets, the 20 through 500, there's much further due diligence done on the back end. So you'll be asked to present, go through a whole thing. If you're in the 100,000 range, you're going to have to give a live presentation to the Aave Grants DAO and go through the entire community to get it done. So yeah, it's like the kind of vetting process. The applications are all streamlined, and then as you go higher up, the vetting gets higher and higher. This is the interview process, I'd call it.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Yeah, go overclock. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, when you were giving the example about, somebody delivered a product and they had a good UI interface, but they didn't like the back end, right? So then they would use the UI and then get another team or that team to redo the back end. Did you say that Aave owned part of the finished product, or they owned it outright? Did I hear?
Actually that's a good legal question. So that's the words they use, but I'm not sure how you would say that from a lawyer standpoint. I'm not exactly sure how the legal structure would work. Do they technically own the IP? They paid for the product to be shipped, and the product was shipped to Aave. So if Aave uses part of that to build something else, I think that's within their rights. But again, that hasn't been proposed to a lawyer yet. So that'd be a good legal question.
Yeah.
Do you know if once I finish the UI and they want to use the UI and put a different backend to it, then does the person, like, do I also have the right to use that UI for another backend, or I'm just delivering it to Aave?
As far as when you're delivering to Aave, again, this is your legal questions. I'm not a legal mind and can't give recommendations on that.
Okay, sure, thanks.
No problem. Sorry.
On the aspect you said, sort of like the administration team, that they have salaries and they're under a company. That company, like, is there a CEO or a board, or like who owns that company then?
So it's not a company. It's just a DAO. So there's no legal structure. That's one thing they've talked about, how they've been not sure if that's something they want to do in the future, to actually become like a real LLC and form a company somewhere. Right now, they're just a DAO existing in Web3. Prihas is the head of it, who was elected by the Aave DAO itself. So the Grants DAO is like a subsidiary of Aave DAO. So the board of directors over the Grants DAO is the Aave community.
So when you say, like, there's bookkeepers and accountants and managing all that, marketing, finance, etc., they're all essentially not part of any legal entity. They get a salary, but that's just dictated by the DAO, and they get that on a yearly basis. Are they elected by the DAO, by the community?
They're elected by the DAO, yeah.
Okay. And then, so has anyone done like a risk assessment? Because I know, like, recently, and I don't know if you've seen it, it's been in the papers here and there, or the news, I should say, here and there. But like, some of these DAOs, someone or group, maybe they submitted a proposal and it failed, and then some people are like, hey, that was mismanagement, we lost funds, and they want to go after someone. Or maybe, let's say, taxation, in that sense, where some profits are going back to the DAO. So the government then says, hey, you're a legal entity, and who we're going to go after is mainly the developers or the DAO governance, like, administrators. And then even one came out and said they're going after the governance token holders, the ones that actually vote on proposals and stuff. I mean, have you guys looked at that risk assessment at all, or thinking about that at all?
No, personally, I haven't. Again, I love all the legal questions, and I wish I had the background chops to give you all the law side of things.
Sure. I got a quick DeFi question for you, if you can answer that one.
Sure.
So, and maybe I misunderstood it, but there was something about a person can basically get interest on certain tokens, like if they essentially loan out. Was that correct?
Yeah, so Aave's a lending and borrowing platform. So if you're depositing tokens in there, you're getting interest, you're borrowing tokens, you're paying interest to borrow. It's just like a MakerDAO setup of over collateralized loans.
Here's my big question to the lending platforms, which I think will be great. And I just can't conceptualize it in my head. I'm just, not, I guess, smart enough. But so when we look at Celsius and Three Arrows and Voyager, who basically all had loans to Three Arrow, and for whatever reason, they didn't have good risk management there. So when Three Arrows went under, they went under. How can a DeFi, is a DeFi lending program through its smart contract set up that if the entire market dropped 90% in 1 hour, would everyone be okay? Or does it just go bust?
So actually, you can look at all the Black Wednesday right before COVID happened. I think it's Black Wednesday or Thursday. I forget which day of the week it was they call that. But if you look at those days, the market crashed that much. Maker, Aave, Balancer, they all performed no problem. If you look at the Three Arrows Capital financial notes that are going on right now, they're paying back all of their loans to Aave and Maker first because they have to. The loans are over collateralized, right? So if they have $500 million of Ether locked up to borrow $250 million worth of DAI or AUSD in Aave's case, they have to repay that to get their money back out of it in the first place. So DeFi has been actually really safe compared to all the CeFi stuff. So the centralized lending of what happened with Three Arrows Capital and Voyager and Celsius, that they were taking out leveraged loans. They were borrowing $100 million and not giving them any collateral or access to small amounts of locked up collateral like GBTC or STE, things that they can't make liquid immediately. And this is the reason why everything broke down. But then you look at the DeFi side of things, all of these smart contract protocols that are over collateralized, every single one of them performed as they were supposed to. If somebody's collateral dropped below 100%, they were liquidated and everything was paid back, and there's been no contagion breakout inside of DeFi.
Yeah, that's really the cool thing that we've really seen.
If they're in,
Yeah.
It's just real quick, if the Three Arrows loan, if they're in Chapter 11 and they don't have to pay back sort of loans until they're out of Chapter 11, does that affect Aave?
No, they already paid Aave and Maker back off already. They're all done. They closed after loans.
Nice. That's awesome. That's cool. Thank you. Appreciate that.
No problem. It's kind of cool that on the capital stack or the waterfall stack, DeFi gets paid first because they've got more money than they owe. They have to liquidate that first to get those funds back for Chapter 11.
And really, that's just automated in the smart contract, right? It automatically happens once they hit their threshold.
That's it. Welcome to the future.
Right. That's what I love about DeFi. Awesome. Cool.
I have a question about the formation process. When they, there wasn't a grant DAO in the beginning in Aave. Yeah? So Aave basically, as far as I know, they have a big pool of community treasury where kind of they all have their native asset sitting around. How did they basically come up with the idea of establishing this grant DAO?
They saw a need for a grants program and wanted to figure out how best to do it. And being one of the older programs out there for doing grants, they had to kind of just piece this system together from the few other examples that were out there, mostly from Maker. They followed Maker's model of doing their own grants committee, but they wanted to have it separated from the main DAO. So it kind of was its own entity to make sure that everything being done there for that whole $100,000 waterfall range we have on the screen right now. They didn't want to have the whole community voting on everything because it gets really complicated. Do you understand the codes? This is more of an expertise level. So everything in here is from different backgrounds, right? So I'm just going through the review committee team. Like someone's from Web Cloud, someone's from Consensus, someone's from Blockchain Capital, someone's from the DeFi Alliance, Delphi, Gauntlet. Everybody on this committee are really strong people in the community and have a lot of history going through. So the level of expertise that's inside of the grants DAO is very high, which gives them the ability to fund these things quickly and make sure that the proper due diligence is being done.
Yeah, that's pretty. How did they basically find? How did they find those people? Have they been just kind of looking around in the community then? I imagine there was. I know there was the kind of the guy that is now leading the grant program. I've seen basically he also was the one that formed the first proposal basically towards the big Aave DAO to establish this whole thing. or was it himself? Or basically, I think they started with a couple of people, and then they really started to look out into the community, or did they also really kind of headhunt in the Web3 world, put up job offerings, and really were looking for the best experts also from outside?
Yeah, they did job postings for the first one, so these were all publicly posted
Yeah,
positions to be held.
yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Like the Shreyas, the head, like because all their salaries are public, like he gets over $100,000 a year to run this program. It's a pretty nice salary for a Web3 job. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, this is what I know. He's kind of you said now in the moment they are like one is full-time employed and the others they are basically on a part-time basis, or do they have already several full-time paid members of the committee?
Yeah, I shared the compensation breakdown in the general chat or BS. So the three people who are on full-time salary, their operations lead, the community manager, and Shreyas, the lead of the whole program. Everybody else is on an hourly basis.
Yeah, amazing. The especially this quick. Yeah, overclock. Go. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to ask a question about the guiding principle slide, the one that's up right now. And, it seems like it seems like the grants are mainly, not mainly, but are focused on the benefit, you say, of Aave and its ecosystem. Now, is that like, it has like all the products have to basically add some kind of value to the lending and borrowing platform, or as kind of like some kind of a marketing campaign for Aave, or is that more open to interpretation on what product is considered a benefit to the ecosystem?
Yeah, it's open to interpretation for sure. I think a really cool one. They don't usually do retroactive funding, but if you remember a while ago, Sushi was hacked, and in that Sushi hack, they took a bunch of Aave tokens and AUSD tokens were taken. So some on-chain detectives went through, found out who took them, and facilitated in getting all the tokens back to Aave through the Sushi hack. And they actually went back and said, "Hey, thanks so much. Why don't you guys just go quick, do a fast grant proposal for 20,000, so we can thank you for getting all of our millions of dollars of tokens back, and we'll approve it right away." So it's retroactive funding for people helping out with a hack. As well as they also do occasionally, they make sure it changes frequently so that no one can game the system. But monthly, they take the top contributors, whether it's number of proposals put forward, number of people who voted, it could be comments, it could just be you're very active in the community, and they airdrop some Aave tokens to people randomly to thank them for being involved in the community.
So do they have like a list or a summary of the projects that they've given funds to and their the status and what they delivered? Is there like a public
Yeah.
place to get this information?
Yeah, I posted it in the general chat.
That's the Airtables, yeah. That's basically I really like how they do this. And if you look into it, I think, like you said, they have already funded over 100. They've given out over 100 grants already, and they are live not or just a year or something, or not even a year now, yeah.
Yeah, just over a year.
Yeah, yeah. And that's pretty. And what, $3.6 million given out to, let's say, 100 projects in 1 year. That's pretty a nice output, let's say it like this, yeah.
I almost feel, hey Philo, I almost feel like this is the kind of stuff that the community should kind of get access to. You know what I mean? Because there's so
Yeah.
much discussion and kind of arguments about what an ecosystem fund and how that benefits the project and the community.
This is why we do this here. That's basically what I wanted to show all of you, that it's kind of even if we are really struggling and arguing and thinking how complicated all this can be, I think I mean, Aave is really this is really a prime thing because they have also found extremely good people to run this on a highest professional level. Like Joe said, they are running this whole thing basically like a proper Wall Street company or like a proper financial institution with really skills. Yeah. And you have to find people
Yeah,
that are
interesting to
able to
see.
do this. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And having like full corporate finance level reporting. It's Aave is one of those protocols out there that kind of shows the traditional finance world and the Web 2 world that like Web 3 is serious. Like these are full financial statements. These are big numbers we're talking about here. These are large TVLs. Like Aave's done a really professional and incredible job of building out a protocol to look like a well-run, or sorry, not look like, but to actually be a well-run financial entity.
Yeah. But that's kind of where everyone basically should be heading if you are looking to do it really proper. Like I know we have all this discussion in the community. Basically, people don't trust, or a group of people always don't trust that a grant DAO, or that basically funding based on community decisions can basically do something good. And those metrics, especially like Aave also collects them and publish them, you really see how, if it's done correctly, how amazingly good this stuff can help a project moving forward. I mean, everybody knows Aave. It's like, I mean, it's not old. I don't know how Aave is 2-3 years or maximum, yeah. And they really have taken off together with the whole DeFi space because they have been able to leverage what they have. Yeah. And that's really good.
Hey, Mac Hacky can you mute yourself?
I
Hey,
muted.
Mac Hacky can you mute yourself?
I got him. Yeah. So that's one thing I wanted to ask.
That's a
Hey, I was just looking at this list, and I was thinking, like, what really struck me about Joe's presentation is that, they have this confidence, about what they're doing, and they're just like moving forward, and it just like they sound very kind of like open about it, instead of being like mistrustful and being paranoid and stuff. I really like that vibe.
Yeah.
But
That's the thing,
Yeah,
I think.
I have to say the whole 20,000 and below, and just the delegates need to do it, and then as the proposals increase in size, then it needs more of the community. I think, like, to me, that's such a good risk mitigation, and sort of when things go a little askew on certain tier levels, then you can certainly adjust if you need to. One question I had was, when you said the milestones, which I think is a great idea, right? Especially on bigger projects. Are you guys depicting the milestones, or is the proposer basically proposing milestones, and then the review committee either like says, hey, let's adjust this, or great, this is great, let's go with it?
So I'm gonna reiterate what Chuck just posted there. I want to make sure I say it too. That yeah, I don't work for Aave. I'm work Bankless Consulting and Bankless Research. I'm just here doing a presentation. I got the interview with the Aave team to learn all these things, and I am not an attorney nor a financial advisor, and this is not legal or financial advice.
Sure.
No worries. No, just like when the proposers submit milestones, because I heard you say milestones, which I think is great risk management tool. Like, is it the proposer putting the milestones, or is the review teams creating those milestones?
They work together. So the proposer and the grants committee is working together to make sure they have milestones that can be hit, that they're measurable, and then there's a kind of a price or a number attached to each one of these things, depending on the percentage of the project it represents.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
And if
Yeah,
they have,
milestones for sorry, good.
yeah, so if they have, let's say they have a couple of those bigger grant programs. I mean, the cool thing is you see most of the grants are really small, but if you have something like a 200K or something, normally this is like a process, basically a lot of time over a couple of weeks or months with several milestones. Do you know if they have like basically if they have let's say one person in charge that is taking care of this specific project, kind of like going side by side with the project and really checking on them and having, let's say, they have a DRI for grant number 25 because it's over 200K, and so there's basically one of the reviewers in charge of really working together with the team and making sure that all this, or do they always kind of then come back and put this up to the whole committee to review and things like this?
It depends on the project and the size. I know they have some devs on the team who have worked with the project directly, like been on the team and helped build something out to make sure the Aave integrations are proper. But most of them are just audits of code, or it's like a check-in, a weekly or bi-weekly or monthly check-in to see how things are going. Again, depends on the grant size and the style of the project.
Yeah. Cool.
Can you tell me if the committee members have a specific term, or if they're just on until they get tired of it, or how does that work?
1-year elections.
So they're fixed.
Let's see. There's 1 year for the elections, and then there was something, if I can find it real fast. Yeah, so 2 of the guys who first got elected are Nick Cannon from Gauntlet and Jose Maria from Delphi Digital. They stepped down within a few months of their tenure there because the work was too much for them to maintain that job as well as their other jobs. So people have stepped down from this, as well as people have been reelected. So
they get reelected from the whole. Is the election done by the whole maker by the whole Aave community, or do they do elections out of the committee or something like this? How is the replacement going then?
They're elected by the whole Aave DAO.
Yeah, and then basically, can people put themselves forward, or can the community propose some new committee members, or basically how they handle this?
I don't have that information in front of me. I'm sorry. I think from what I got from the again, don't quote me on this. What I got from the conversation was that anybody can be elected, or anyone can be proposed, but the whole idea is that you have to have the skill set that's missing, right? So if they need, let's say their DeFi expert step down, then you need to find somebody else with a background and the chops to do the DeFi side. If it's a dev role, you have to have the dev background.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask a question.
No, Chuck, not allowed to.
All right, never mind.
No, go for it, man.
Okay, so in the real world, there are foundations that want to run in perpetuity, and they have an endowment that grows over time because it's invested in markets, and they basically just pay down. They pay grants based on how much their endowment grew each year. So their principal stays the same, and they're basically dispersing their interest so that they can exist in perpetuity. They want to exist forever. And then there's foundations that have a lot of money and they want to make an impact now, and it's like, we'll just give away as much money to as many good projects come in front of us. Did you get a sense of where on that spectrum Aave falls? Are they trying to exist forever, or are they trying to make as big an impact in the short term as possible?
Big impact in short term. So their funding was for $6 million for 2 years, and then after that, the entire community would decide if it was a net positive to the whole Aave ecosystem itself, and whether to refund them the same amount, more, less, depending on results. So it's a 2-year experiment.
Really straightforward. Cool.
Yeah. I've seen this also in others. I mean, we had this question about this. Is it really kind of the thing of giving this 20K in 24 hours? But I know Near is doing something similar. I think they have 25 or something. You basically you propose, and it's like a super fast track thing. And basically this is how those projects, they even have, I'm sure they have 10, 15% of mismatch and stuff that in the end doesn't work out, but the amount of traction that you get with such a let's say juicy juicy program for teams and for devs to really consider building something for this whole thing. I think this, I mean, you see it, I'm pretty sure they wouldn't try to extend this functionality if they wouldn't see it in their metrics and in their analysis that this whole thing really, really works. Yeah. So that's like pretty interesting to see that the thing that you normally would say, okay, that's kind of the scariest thing you can do, of kind of just giving money out to Anons and trust them that they actually gonna deliver something that is pretty good. Basically works very likely the best, yeah.
And I love the how factor that it's like this Web3 reputation thing. It's been coming up a lot recently, and it's such a world where who have you worked with? Who do I know you've worked with? You know, what protocols can I contact someone from there? Show me what you've done. What's your Twitter look like? What's your lens? Go through it. You can check people's wallet addresses and see what they've done on chain, and it's a really amazing way to be able to see what someone can do without having like a traditional resume or like, hey, our company does X, Y, and Z. It's like, oh no, we're just three guys who can build this dashboard for you. Like, here's one we built before. Do you like it? Cool. Thanks for the money.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good thing. You definitely, if you get people that can really show you this, they come in and say, hey, we built this. Here's my GitHub. Check. This is the code that we delivered. This is the product that we delivered. It runs there. It has bang, bang, bang. We have a couple of weeks time. We would be interested to build something for Aave or for your project. But yeah, give us a bit of funding, a kind of a kickstart, and we're just gonna deploy something really cool for you. Yeah.
Absolutely. And there's a can't reveal the name of the client, but working on another grants program for another protocol. And their current system is, you have to do a YouTube video showing what it is you're doing. You have to present this really large, massive proposal process. And even if it's for a small amount of money and they're not getting a lot of traction, because if you're a really good team, are you going to spend days and days and days building a proposal for them? Or are you just going to take your project to somebody else who will fund it quickly and not make you go through all the trouble, right? This barrier to entry does create problems. In the long run. Like I said, this program has so many grants and so many applicants and so many cool things being built because they've made it easy to apply.
Mhm. How big is no, they have 6 million, you said. Okay, yeah, so that's pretty cool. So they and they got this 6 million in 50% stable and 50% Aave native coin. Huh?
Actually, and the stable coins they got were AUSD, which is Aave's stake position. So basically, it's like a safe USDC coin, which is cool because it's making interest, but the interest isn't going to the grants DAO. The interest is still going back to the Aave treasury.
Yeah.
So as they're holding this money in their own treasury, it's giving the interest back to the Aave DAO itself.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of nice because then kind of they had like also kind of a bit of a stable budget that they could. I mean, through this year, I'm sure the 6 million have been a little bit more, but now very likely that's less than 6 or less than what it's supposed to be. But basically, if you have this thing, okay, we have 2 years, we have 6 million, and we can just go and do the best out of it.
Do you know in any way how they came up with the 6 million?
Just what was proposed? No, I couldn't tell you what the number was picked.
I really like the idea though of like taking a small bit, kind of running it for 2 years or 1 year, and like testing the framework out, and which of course is a success, and I'm sure the community will support further funding. It's pretty cool.
Hey Joe, great presentation. Did you have any other further pain points you might have identified? Like you mentioned, barrier to entry that people should be aware of as they build these processes.
Yeah, barrier to entry is a big one to get people to apply as well, and just making sure that. So it's kind of like a different of all the grants programs I've been through so far and applied for myself, doing research projects for a couple different people. Some of them are really open-ended, like Aave, where it's like, hey, here's 7 sectors we're interested in. Just go ahead and tell us what you want to build. Let you know if we want it. Or the other ones are much more bounty-esque, where it's like, we need this dashboard built that does X, Y, and Z. And both programs have worked. So it's kind of just really your style. So I think for Aave, keeping it open-ended, they've got a lot of things built for them that they had no idea they would ever actually want or need. People are just coming up saying, like the Kono Finance thing, like, hey, liquidation protection, like here's something we can build through Gelato Finance that can make sure that your customers don't have themselves liquidated. They can actually set up their own kind of like stop limit orders as the price goes down. to prevent losing all their collateral and or paying a liquidation penalty. Versus if you're working with other companies who are like, hey, we want whatever this dashboard built to show wallet growth and new coins being dropped in, and what is our TVL metric over time. Then they can say, hey, we want this is a specific example. But it's been interesting to see both sides of that equation and how it's worked. I think the open-ended one, you get a lot more innovation on your platform.
Thanks. Interesting. Open-ended, much better to sort of a bounty approach.
Yeah, I think a combination of both could work too. I haven't seen a hybrid model, but I think that might be the way to go. So like you can post exactly what it is. If you need something in the community, we need this. Here's the price we think it should be. Versus, hey, open-ended grants as well. Come in and what do you want to build? How can you make this thing cooler?
Yeah.
So Joe, as we start building like our treasury committee and stuff, and I guess our charter will be basically similar to Aave in the sense that we want it to kind of reflect well on the IOTA ecosystem. And so, do you recommend the way that they have it set up, like out of the different kind of grant DAOs that you've seen? Do you like the easy access to the 20K and the fast turnaround? Do you think that's a good place to start?
I think it's pretty cool. I think you're going to have 4 more presentations from some different grant programs to see in the next few weeks what everybody else is doing. From the ones that I've experienced at least and gone through, and I'd say I do a lot of research or protocol, so I do research grants a lot. And yeah, some of them are really easy and quick to go through, and obviously it's as someone who's working with protocols, I prefer it versus a lengthy 80+ day process to get approved for a $15,000 grant is insane. So it's like, I'm going to take my business and my team elsewhere to work on something rather than go through that massive process. So you have to make sure you're keeping it accessible for people to come in the door. But at the same time, like, is 20,000 the right number for IOTA? I don't know. You'll have to figure that out as you go and what you're trying to get built.
Do you?
Joe, sorry. Have you guys from Bankless, and it's awesome that you do this research. Have you guys created any sort of like comparison table that would basically have, like the DAOs on the top columns and then different variables that basically organizations seek out on a DAO, and then kind of really just has like a one table look at comparison?
Nope, I'm going to build it now.
Okay. I think it'd be a great idea, and maybe we'll have to do it ourselves through these meetings. But yeah, I really appreciate you guys.
Yeah. Do you
know anything about something like that?
You cut out there, Joe. What'd you say?
So do you know anyone building anything like that, like a full kind of DAO dashboard of what's being built for grants programs?
I have only seen resources like that for people seeking funding. Like I've seen like lists of like, here are all the DAO grants programs that you could apply to. I have not seen a dashboard or a resource like that for people that want to build their own grants program.
Wouldn't be actually a bad idea to have this? I mean, like this, they're doing it a lot, and like you said, it's you can stumble over a lot of information, but it's really stripped out. And I mean, I'm sure in your research you figured it out, and we are looking into this also over the year, and it's kind of complicated to really compare things. Might be not a bad idea to have something like this built out. One question I had: how big is the main Aave treasury? So basically, I mean, they stripped out the 6 million on base of how much capital did they had in total available?
Give me just 1 sec. I'll pull that up. Trusty DeFi llama.
Yes.
5 billion.
But the TVL, but they have also a treasury. You can check in OpenOrgs, .com or something. I think they have in the moment something like $180 million in their treasury wallet, basically. Like this is kind of the community owned grants. So this is the thing, of course, like you have to see. I mean, if we want to with our market in a moment, I mean, our treasury that we have voted on to have available is in the moment, I think, $18-20 million. So that depends on if you strip out 6 million from 600 million, or if you strip out 6 million from 25 million. That's a bit of a difference in relation then what you can do, and if you can make, let's say, 20,000 quick funding, or you just do 5,000 quick funding or whatever. But also, I mean, you are also looking out. What is something like, is 20,000 really kind of also for builders an attractive number where you can really get stuff done with this? Or do you think lower grants would also be attractive to a certain kind of builders? Or let's say 5K without questions asked, would this work?
I think it really depends on what you're trying to get built. So I'm not sure what IOTA's goal is. What are you guys trying to have built on your network, or is it just strictly you're not sure and just want to see what people can kind of put out there? And it really depends what you're looking for, because obviously something quick like a marketing thing, or like a little, like Aave had like a liquidation notifier, just a little program running in the background, like 10 grand, easy. They did a meme contest to get community engagement for $5,000. Like, you can do some stuff for cheap. It just depends on what you're looking to do.
Yeah, that's basically a thing. Like also this community engagement. I mean, you can have little meetups, hackathons, stuff like this, which is normally a couple of $1,000s. But like I said, if you have to apply for this thing, and it takes basically 4 weeks to get anything, and you have to basically strip yourself naked and your grandmother to just do something. And you see also the competition, there is Aave out there, and as if you want to do something and you're not really agnostic to, I must do something for this chain because I absolutely love it. Like, you can go out there and you can do it for Aave, and in 2 weeks later you do it for Balancer, you do it for Nia, you do it for Cardano. Basically, you can just build stuff continuously, and you normally will then choose those available grants that are easy accessible, and letting you do stuff instead of filling out forms and applications over weeks to just get something done.
I thought this program was really good, where they had the simple application process for everybody, including all the way up to $1 million of funding if you wanted it. The application process is simple, and then you get filtered based on how much you're asking for. So if someone has a really in-depth protocol, you can go through and do very deep due diligence, interviews, make them go through a whole YouTube, community AMA if you want to. But if it's something small and quick where you think you have the expertise to vet it yourself, you can make it go really fast. So having a fast application process is really important to keep new ideas coming in. And then once they come in, you can vet them like, hey, do you want to spend the 2 weeks doing a due diligence on this $150,000 project? Or do we think it's not going to be good for us and we'll just get them a pass really fast?
Mm-hmm. Have there been some, let's say, some failures or some really critical things coming up in the community? Have they been disappointed with one or two of those things that maybe have not played out, or is basically kind of everybody happy and it's kind of looks like a full success in the moment?
Right now, everybody's happy. Yes, there's definitely some projects that are kind of hanging on there. I tried to ask for metrics of the number of projects that didn't do what they were supposed to do or failed, and they wouldn't share that with me. Like I said, some projects are pending and have been pending for longer than they're supposed to.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yes, of course. Yeah.
Well, we're looking forward to continuing the conversation with you guys next week. But I think we need to wrap up today. I think we might have Joe late to his next appointment.
Absolutely no problem. This was super.
Wow, I mean, I didn't even realize we were at the hour. It was such a rich conversation. Thank you so much for engaging.
We could go on. We could go on.
It's awesome.
Yeah, we have another meeting tomorrow, same time. I'm pretty sure we're going to continue this conversation anyway. Thanks a lot, really. This was, I think, great insights for all of us. A lot of things to think about and start thinking about for the people that are taking part in this call. Basically, I think it's pretty cool that we kind of still are in the process of thinking about how we do this treasury, because we still don't have the tokens. So pretty cool. We haven't been able to do any mistakes in the process, which is pretty cool. So I think that's great to hear these insights from people from outside, because you have a completely different view on some things than we might have it, and that's really, really interesting and very valuable, I think.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate you guys. Great questions to everybody.
Absolutely great.
Thank you.
Chuck, that's
Thank
super.
you.
So we're gonna see the Bankless team next week again on Tuesday, as far as I know. And
Yep, you got it. Same time on Tuesday, and that'll be me presenting about Bankless DAO grants program.
Bankless presenting Bankless. So yeah, we'll see how many people will flee over from IOTA to be part of that. No, anyway, no, we're really looking forward then, because kind of I know, Chuck, you are part of the grant committee, so some deeper insights might be available for us from somebody that's really doing it all day. Yeah.
Exactly right. Looking forward to it. Thank you, Holger. Thanks,
Excellent. Thanks, everybody. Have a nice evening, afternoon, weekend. I'm basically stopping the stream now, but we, of course, can continue chatting, talking if people